streaming key or reconfigure.
Live stream. Got it. Now we're live.
Are we live?
I think
That's
so.
odd. That's because
let me see.
Yeah, because Zoom is saying it can't connect, but it says that we are live. So here we go. I think we are live.
We are live.
Well,
we're
all
live.
right. So we're going to ride with it as long as we can. And yeah, so welcome everybody. Strange things happening today. So we just want to speak favor over us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken. And we are prospering and be of service to others. Love one another. That is the only way. Listen, not one of us are perfect, and we don't have anything that we can say about another. That's just it. Love one another. So Trina, happy freaking out Sunday. And, S-U-N, it's a weird day. How are you, my dear?
I am wonderful. This is powerful, beautiful stuff we're coming into. And boy, we're feeling it.
We are.
It. The energies and the instability and the tribe having issues and all of it. This is all part of it. This is all part of it.
It is. And lots of energy. You and I were talking prior to going on here. The changes are here. They're taking effect. And I'll have to get this officially, but I have the Suspicious Observers Disaster app. So when things are going off on the sun, I get the alerts. 15 M-class flares in a matter of less than 30 minutes. And in the midst of all of those M-class flares, we also had a 1.5 X-class flare at the same time. I've never seen anything like that before. It just, whoa.
Amazing.
Yeah. And folks, we're being hit with the protons, the photons of that coming at us. And so be nice.
Yes.
So try. Be nice and be calm.
Yeah.
Have a clear mind, That's the thing to do. We're going to get into a little meditative with the seeking your abundance with Mary Magdalene. I just think the next one is great. So Trina, while we're here, hello everyone in the chat room. Hello moderators. Kaz, much love to you, dear. Hello Jack Dreaming, Coke Queen, Isby Speaks. How are you doing? Loretta and Gogo and Bonnie and I think Deborah Sloan, how are you, my love? Seeing you as well. And Jackie and Shannon, much love to you, Scotty boy. It's so good to have the folks here. I had things I had to do yesterday, and I miss this group of people. I really do.
I do too. It's in my heart.
Yeah. It's no matter what. There's David Castle. How you doing, brother? And Isby369. How you doing? Bernadette, good to see you. Robert V, what's up? Grace, hello. It's just a beautiful day. I just tell you, yeah. So Trina, how are you?
Just riding this roller coaster like everybody else. Like I said, they blew up. My phone got blown up and all my recording stuff, everything went down. I had a crazy train wreck with that. So yeah, this energy is like, woohoo.
My brother's battery, and he's got a brand new phone. Well, it's a year old or so. And, the battery exploded. I said, it did what? He says, yeah. I said, well, they're not supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. I just read yesterday that these e-scooters here in Denver, they, you can rent them all over, and the batteries are exploding. In New York City, it caused a fire in a building. Wow. Well, that's a high, that tells you there's a lot of high particles hitting us. So Isby, I am Trinity. I love that. That's beautiful. So, hello, Loretta. Let me get rid of that. Okay. So, Trina, what have you been doing?
Just trying to create. I've been working a lot on that. And I've been working a lot on, connecting this new template, which is actually the first original template back down here. And it's really starting to I can see it
Hello,
manifest.
TL Clark. How you doing? You're not blocked. Only thing blocking is that, sometimes it's that, hello, Eric, how you doing? Speaking of which, in the thought creation, so, we're doing, I haven't gotten the results from Lucky and Courtney. Thank you too. We love you so much. I mean, that's a lot of logistical work. Lucky is, as Courtney says, she says, I'm so thankful that Lucky's here, she said, because this is a lot of work. I mean, when you're correlating results, particularly when you're doing the analysis, and so again,
statistics, not many people even can do that.
Yeah. So send them some love, folks. Hey, Emperor Rex, send them some love. That's all I got to say. Interesting experience that I've had, and my dreams have been so intense. But Sunday morning, so in our bedroom, we have a clock that actually shows up on the ceiling. And so we can see whatever time is, and I was awakened. And I remember looking at the clock and it was 3:33 a.m., but I wasn't fully awake. Mm-hmm. And the strange thing, I actually wrote this down. I keep these by the bed, was awakened, but not fully awake. I was in a building. I was in, if you could call a chamber, and a chamber has a different meanings of that. But anyway, what awoke me and what I became very much intensely aware was the noise. There was a cacophony of voices. And I wrote to Lucky and Courtney, because it's important that we keep records of this. And the same way with any of you all that are in this, and even if you're participating outside, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. That I sensed a number of people, but what was so interesting was what I saw in the center, and it was really interesting. It was the best thing I can tell you, it resembled a nautical compass, but spinning. Oh. And it was at times like almost a cube, like a square spinning. And then it would extend out like you would see a compass in its 8-pointed sides, and then it would shrink back in. And that's what it was doing. And
what was our shape for last week?
Our shape was the star, and
I'm off of 1 week. I always do that.
And the word was favor. So that is, yeah. But that's what I experienced. And I knew I was lucid. I knew I was in a lucid state of dreaming. I was consciously, cognitively aware. I was in two places. I knew I was still next to my wife, but I was also in this other place. And anyway, it was very interesting. Wow. And as I read from Courtney yesterday, a lot of interesting things are taking place. We are progressing.
Well, it's interesting because it was the card was the star, and that's what I picked last week.
And that is common. We can get glimpses into the future, has multiple potentials and possibilities.
Yeah, but it's ironic because you were saying you were seeing a cube, a square, and it was mutating. And that's exactly what I put down. I see the cube, I see a square, and I'm seeing a new building of a new matrix, new connections, literally divine feminine energy, reawakening, reattaching, rebirth. That's what I was seeing, new creation. And it was through, and the star is the symbol of creation to me. And I had the star last week. It's so weird. It's like it's all there. It's just about getting it in the right little spaces of time, I guess, because it's all there already. I'm seeing it already. And when Jennifer was talking about seeing Brian, and she's never met Brian. And that was just so much confirmation, because remember I told you Brian and lots of friends and the angels and lots of friends, and there were so many that were excited to be participating in this with us. And it was beautiful confirmation for Jennifer to see him there.
Yes. And I just saw Courtney. She said that they'll have the second week analysis tomorrow. And as Courtney was saying, we're making connections in very interesting ways. I sensed Jennifer Roberts. I could sense her energy, but there were two other. And the thing about it is, you don't see anyone physically. At least I don't.
Jen, and I grabbed her hand.
Yeah, I sensed the energy of her thoughts.
And I grabbed your hand, and I grabbed the two of us, and I had her on one side and you on the other. That's what I saw. And then it was poof, we were done. But it was like, I grabbed a hold of you guys when I saw you there. I grabbed you. I was like,
now that's interesting, because Courtney and Lucky can validate this, because I sensed her energy, but there were two other females standing next to her, and there was a group of distinct personalities. I mean, I could sense them. I just couldn't tune into them. It was noisy. Like I said, it reminded me of almost, if you've ever been to Grand Central Station, right when the rush hour starts, and that's about 4:30, if any of you have ever been in Manhattan, and it's that cacophony of voices. Yeah, it was very interesting. And what I saw in the center was just, it was very fascinating. I'll show people. I've actually been able to find something close to it, but yeah.
Yeah, and it was amazing too when she said that she saw the circle and the columns. I was like, oh boy, I saw that too.
It's
it looks similar, almost to Stonehenge.
Interesting.
It's literally, and I'm wondering if that's one of the points in this plane that that's where we're going to, because it has the energy of that.
So Courtney says, and I think this is interesting, probably she said, and I think you're right, Courtney, she said, because it's too distinct. She said she was in there at the same time. She says probably me, Trina, and Jenny's energy wouldn't, you see, and it's so interesting how now when you start comparing experiences that individuals have, you begin to see, so that's how the connection starts. And that is how it starts.
Yeah. And it was really cool, because I saw the columns and I saw the circle, and then I completed a dome, and there's an antenna now.
I love that. I love that.
Now it looks like a massive, beautiful golden rotunda. Almost. It's beautiful.
Interesting. Gilbert says also the train station in LA. I can see that. Grand Central has that weird thing. Hello, Project Skyfalls. How are you doing? So good to see you, and Gilbert as well. Lost in Space. I'm going to get Max Vision on. He has a pretty schedule during the week, so we're going to be doing most likely a show on the weekend and then get it out to everybody, because as we're exchanging emails, the ball is in my volley, so I have to volley the ball back. But it is interesting, because he was thinking about writing to me at the same time. And thank you, Robert V, for sharing of the email. Is this telepathy, remote viewing? So yeah, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. I can't wait to get his perception and knowledge on that one, because if you're remote viewing, you think about this, you're actually tuning in. And is that a form of telepathy? Is it an extension of telepathy with other, what we would call the seventh and eighth senses? I mean,
yeah,
I got to tell you, I'm reading this book, and folks, when I recommend a book, I really do. This thing, this one it's called the, as you can see, The Magical Use of Thought Forms. It is, that one. Yeah, and
that's a good one too.
It's a great companion to Mark Stavish's book, which we're continuing on. I mean, tomorrow I have Chris Matthew from Forbidden Knowledge News.
He's so
Chris is
great.
making a documentary. So
I saw that.
yeah, I saw him with the group. He invited me up there, but we just couldn't make it up there. Chris only lives about an hour and a half from where I live. So hello, Divine Empress and Diane. Good to see you as well. Thank you. Jules, how are you feeling? Julie Rose, huh? You've get up there. She said, yeah, thank you for putting Mac's link in there. Yeah. So getting back to this point, this group is making connections. And since most of us have never been trained how to use, much less engage, activate our telepathic skills, this is how we do it. For instance, while I've been talking to you, Trina, in the Soul Tribe, and hello, Mary wins. You know, when Mary wins, we win. And hello, Ruby. How you doing, my dear? Good to see you. Bill Bennett. So I know, I hope you're practicing, because once you get into this, it gets a little addictive. I'm just making sure I can't see it in my eyeglasses, because some of y'all are really sharp. Hey, Regina, good to see you, dear. Let's see. So I'll just give this, and I'm thinking on a different connecting level, you know. So what'd you see?
I think the circle.
Okay.
I kept seeing the cross too, though. That's the thing. Sometimes I get dual symbols at the same exact time. Wavy lines. Okay.
I'm just thinking of that.
There at all. Nope.
Esby says, I've been sending gratitude and love and favor. Yes. I find myself in a perpetual state of that. But yeah, I mean, this attitude of gratitude, wow, it's changed me. It humbles you. It humbles you in your spirit, because as I keep saying, Trina, I don't know about you, I have no idea to who, what I am sending gratitude for, but I know this. I am cognitively aware that there is something greater than myself. I am merely a part of that sum total.
Yep.
And there's times when I have tears in my eyes because I'm so grateful for the things in my life that I am seeing and experiencing, that I'm thankful and grateful that I have the breath within me to make the statement of gratitude.
Yes.
What say you, dear?
And to even have the thought, and then to be able to experience the feeling, and that feeling, if you can get into that feeling, that's always been my fastest way home to God. It's whatever that God is, but it's that feeling is what reconnects me and pulls me out of any kind of darkness that I'm battling.
The funk.
Because that stuff is coming at us hard right now, because we're doing something.
It's everywhere.
Powerful.
It isn't.
It's on the radar.
Bill Bennett, how you doing, my friend? He says, I'm driving the truck, but I'm listening. Hey, we're surrounding you with favor, my friend. All about may prosperity abound. Hello, Eye of the Maelstrom. How are you, Divine Empress? And Amy, there's a song about you. How you doing? So yeah, it's interesting as well that this gratitude thing. I mean, you know, and we're going through, we are iron sharpens iron. It's one of the proverbs that I learned years and years ago. And a lot of time when you can have a personality, it's almost abrasive. And it can almost be irritating at times. But at the same time, what you're not really realizing is that it's actually sharpening you. And you're sharpening them. Yeah.
The friction creates fire.
Yes.
Fire is inspiration. So through that agitation, you have an opportunity to break through to a new conscious perspective that you didn't once hold. Through that agitation, it forces movement.
Yeah, it does. It's humbling, and you know, the tears of gratitude. And, I figure it's like this, when we all leave this realm, having that whole thing of the attitude of gratitude ain't a bad thing at all.
It's going to be a saving grace.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really love that. I wanted to make sure that Grandpa Brian, y'all know Grandpa Brian?
Yeah.
He is a groovy dude.
Yes.
Him and I have a lot of similarities in how we came up through this. Hello, Cheryl Callahan. How you doing? Well, thank you. She's listening from Massachusetts. I was one of my favorite movies because I know there's a background there, but it's called The Freshman. Matthew Broderick, Penelope Miller, and as you know, Marlon Brando, and has an all-star cast. And so Clark Kellogg, who is the character that Matthew Broderick plays, and Marlon Brando, who was satire in his role as the Godfather, always could never get his state right. Did it on purpose, but anyway, every time I see that, I think of her on that. So welcome. Musgrave Griffin, hello. His group hug is on the horizon. Oh, I love that. So spoke with Grandpa Brian. Grandpa Brian, how are you, my friend? Probably out working. That's what he was doing yesterday. And he's postponing the gathering until August.
Yep.
So that, the timing just wasn't right.
Yeah.
The timing will be right.
Mm-hmm.
So August, and keep and tune in that. So interesting thing. I can't wait to get the final analysis for week 2, but it's getting to where this is getting exciting. It's just trying to go in and experience it all.
Yes. Yeah. And like I said, I think a lot of us are getting hit with really powerful energies, a lot of distractions, a lot of things happening in our worlds personally. And, because that's what happens when you get into another initiation. It has its challenges, and those are opportunities.
It does.
Opportunities to grow. So we're
and the energy that this group is generating, it has different effects on different people. I mean, we all perceive this book is just so interesting. So, the fact is, everything that we see around us is an illusion. This is not reality. We are merely immersed in a thought form.
Yeah.
Now, what makes the difference is this. I was reading this, and I have this in PDF, but I don't like the copy that I have, so I'm going to try to get a different one. Is this the reason why we see things as we do is because we all are in agreement. The majority is what builds the construct of what we're all immersed into. When you gather that, that's why you have the master saying, actually you have the when the aliens came down and gave us language, they blocked our telepathic ability at that point, because they said, if they ever get in agreement and unity, nothing's impossible.
Nothing.
So they have nothing. I mean, think about this. So we have been taught from the day we come in here that we have to conform. Mm-hmm. It's important because if you're a nonconformist, particularly at that age of birth, into the first 3 years, you become typically a very problem child. And they say it's because children at that age are having there's a cognitive disconnect. But eventually, by the time you're 4 years old into 5 years old, you are now in what they call the malleable stage. And it's vitally important, in order to keep this illusion the way it is to this program that's being run, is that you have to agree with it. Wow. And we all do.
I struggled with that, Wayne. I
bet you probably a lot of us did.
I really did, because I was like talking to the Lord all the time, and I knew that people were stupid. So I would like have a real hard time when I was little. They would tell me something and I was like, that doesn't make sense. I was like, I don't have to listen to you because you're not boss over me. I was pulling that stuff when I was 4 and 5 and 6 years old. And then I got to school and that was real trouble. But I was
Yeah.
I was not a conformist. I couldn't.
And agreed. Many of us have that disconnect. The thing that this book points out, because we never look at it like this. We think that these physical bodies is what distinguishes. We see reality from a window. All of us do. And because it's what the illusion of our eyes, and the fact that that's the first clue that the retina, what it sees, we actually see everything inverted.
Upside down, yeah.
Yes. So, and people will argue with this. We right now, if we're seeing literally, we are literally inverted.
Yes.
The thing of the magic, the trickster that happens, and we call this science, is that, well, science says, well, that's because the image that's reflected on the back of the cornea needs to basically be inverted back, and that's how the brain interprets everything right side up.
Yeah.
Well, true, but why are we seeing it upside down? But we think we're seeing it right side up. Because we're part of a thought form.
Yes.
It's weird, Trina, is that we're so convinced. And I'm leading to a point here, folks. The point to all this is why this group experiment has the potential to blow the freaking lid off. Everything. And I'll say this, we have formed a collective. You're already a part of it. Yeah. Just by listening to Trina and I talk, and the more you listen about the project, the more you are connected to it. Mm-hmm. That potential, we can literally alter space-time. Einstein proved it out in his theory of universal theory. Yeah. So this is why these thought forms, they become aware of us, and we're drawing the attention of some pretty powerful egregores, spirits. We call them angels, we call them demons, we call them gods, we call them goddesses, but what they all are thought forms. They're nothing more.
Yeah.
It gets me so excited when I see what we're actually doing here. And, the more I read into this, the more, as you were talking about someone in your life, that when they became aware of the thought forms, that individual said, I'm having to fight them now.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking, and we as we exchanged our thoughts here, this is why when we create these egregores of our past, we are in a place that creates them. We give birth to them. Yeah. Even though we may forget them as we age, as we progress. As Paul said, when I was a child, I thought as a child. Now as a man, I think as a man. But the problem is these egregores are still alive.
Yeah, very much alive.
Very much. And when you begin to make major changes in your life, when you're introduced to what you and I were talking, this gnosis, this occult knowledge, this hidden knowledge, once you're exposed to it, there's no going back.
Can't unpop that popcorn.
And your friend is going through a very challenging time right now.
Life shattering. It literally breaks you apart and flips you inside out.
Doesn't it though?
Yeah.
Doesn't it though?
It does.
Yeah.
Especially when it's done properly, because when it is done right, it's painful.
Well,
it restructures your entire being.
It does. Yeah. I realize now what happened to me. Lynn and I were talking about this almost 7 years ago. Oh no, it's been more than long than that. Boy, time flies so quick.
Yeah, it does.
Nearly a decade now, when I shattered the egregore of my religious faith. Now that those things, and it's only because of my life that I've had to face egregores of the past that I created. And and these can be life-changing events. But getting back, so when that egregore crashed, when it no longer had any power over me or any pull, it crashed. I crashed.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And
Hard.
it was. I was in a fetal position crying like
Yeah,
a baby.
hard. Me too. And then I felt this like walking through the desert for 40 days all alone. I felt like everything was disconnected and that was scary. And all of the old ways that I used to do those practices got blown apart. And I started seeing how powerful thought forms are. And then I started looking into idol worship.
Oh,
And what is all of that? And then I came to the realization that I was the biggest idol worship I had been idling on this planet, was my thinking that I was real.
well, now this gets real. That's just where that saying where the rubber hits the road here is,
Yeah, it
that
hurts.
because when you think about it, sun's going off again. It's like, so they have control. And when you begin to make the changes, like, when I were talking about when a person experiences the full Kundalini,
Yeah.
I mean, that'll rip you around.
Oh, it does. It rips you around, all right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so the old egregore begins to go fade away. And speaking of my religious, egregore that I defeated, it's interesting because what I have found is that egregore now is an ally.
Yes.
Now, I'm speaking to someone on this. So when you're facing the egregores that you've created and they're coming in, they want you to go back the way you were. You're not going to do that. You're an evolving being.
Yes.
The thing becomes, I never looked at there was a second option. I mean, you can say, well, I'm going to try to decimate this thing, and by not even giving it thought or recognition, but it's still there.
Very
So
special person told me something very vital the other day, Wayne.
what was that, hon?
It was, they're trying to dissolve me, meaning the entire matrix construct or Satan or whatever they believe is the evil power, whatever they believe. It's like they're trying to dissolve me. Can you even imagine such a thing? Wouldn't it be much better if they just simply unplugged from me? I was
And
like,
allow them their freedom?
well, and then I said, well, if everybody unplugged from you, would it hurt you? And you know what their response was? No, it only hurts for a little bit, but then you become part of my subconscious mind.
Well, that's an interesting thought. So each of us are an aspect of another mind.
Yes.
Well, I got to tell you what, whatever mind that I'm a part of, and I guess you can say we're all part of that same mind. I
That's what
love it.
Yeah, I was being understood. We're all part of that same mind.
Yeah.
But don't try to dissolve it.
Try
Simply unplug from it.
Yeah. Or in my case, it came back to me and said, listen, I've been part of you for nearly 50 years. This is you've created me into this thing. And so in my meditation, it became very evident that there was another option I'd never considered. Well, how about you and I being allies?
Yeah,
We
let's
may
be
not even be
friends.
friends, but we could be allies. I can help you grow, and you have experienced what I have already done. You can bring to my remembrance even that which I may have forgot.
And in essence, that could become one of your best friends because they
Well, it
can show
has
you
then. It
everything.
has.
That's what I mean. And that's how it is for me. I no longer see you as an idol or a worship object. I now see you as my family, and I see you as part of the reason I hold life within my breath. So
Yeah.
through that connection, we are one. There's no one above, there's no one below. It is all the same stuff operating as thought.
Yeah. And it's true. And if you take the idea of the Big Bang, if you take the idea of creation, that within a finite reality of which time and space is, time is finite within itself. Otherwise, there would be no construct of the thought of time. But if you look at this, if you take it back to its furthest back as you can go, it had to have been the thought.
Absolutely. Think about
Something
it,
gave
Wayne.
thought.
Yeah, and just like a big bang in darkness in space would look identical to a synopsis firing within a mind.
And as you were talking,
Identical.
have you ever been knocked out?
Yes.
I have, and due to an accident. But so when you're knocked out, you know what happens? It's almost instantaneous. You have that bright flash, and then everything goes dark because you're out. But
Yep.
it's interesting because you think about that sudden flash. What's happening? It's like every synaptic pathway of your brain is responding to the impact, the vibration, that frequency.
And think about it. What is that called? A parasympathetic result.
Mm,
A parasympathetic, which is paranormal,
bingo.
psychic, spiritual. So, and that's what it is. It's your body is like, oh God, protection. Boom, there's the flash, lights out. It's protecting you, and it is a higher sympathetic response, and it literally is like a brain overload, and that causes the system to crash. And
Kurt
that's
Plain
exactly
says
what
the
we're
brain
doing.
is shorting out. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
shorting out. I mean, yeah,
yeah. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's what this all is. It's the power of this parasympathetic structure that we are now beginning to harness and understand, which is divine feminine. In all actuality, that's her power.
And it's interesting because I'm seeing that, and more in the thought form that this group is in. We've actually already created it. We're just adding to its essence. It's powerfully feminine in its
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah. But like I said, the Lord to me was always just like a girl. It was a
Yeah,
boy and a girl at the same time. I never felt more nurturing or more love or more stuff like that than from that being. Yeah, even above like my own physical parent, just the wisdom, the knowing, the connection. It was profound. So, but it was feminine.
it's one
And
of the most unique things that I have ever seen. When I meditate on this, and I talked to Lynn about this because she sees things through physiology, through medical eyes, because that's all she's ever done. She's been a nurse.
yeah,
Um, and I am, as she said, I was born a philosopher. That there's some truth to that. But
yeah,
I meditate on the fact that, as I've told her, how I see the feminine now is it's a 180 from what I perceived that even 10 years ago.
I,
The
I didn't even know about it, Wayne.
That's
I didn't,
interesting, and you're more connected by just the makeup, and that's my point. As much as I tell Lynn, I said I cannot perceive reality from what a woman sees reality. I can identify with a male.
yeah,
I mean, I don't even have to be anywhere. I can see on the other side of the world a male reacting, and I can say, yeah, I but it's that, and for me, it's that mystery. It's the place where the male energy will never be allowed in. And that what brings to me such a sacredness to how I see the divine feminine now. It is not even on par of sexuality. As the sexuality doesn't even factor into the equation, because this is an essence I'm beginning to experience that it's nothing to screw with.
No.
Because you get involved with it and you try to revert back to waves that where it tears down when you're tearing down. This got a boomerang effect. And my point is, I'm finding this reverence of respect. I mean, it's kind of like, you walk into a sacred place and you're not about to violate the protocol.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It's so big. Like I said, I feel the weight of what you're saying, and I completely understand that. It's almost like when you're dealing with the mother part of creation, it's the hidden parts. It's the parts that you can't see. And when you're dealing with the father part of God, you're dealing with the thoughts. But there's underlying information coded in all of those thoughts that we don't have an understanding of, kind of like how our body is operating and our heart is beating and all of these things are happening inside of the biological body that you have, and you have no awareness of how to digest your food.
By the way, that is the body spirit, folks. If you speak to your body spirit, that's who you're talking to.
Yeah, but the subconscious is what's driving all of those operations. So it's like the way it was shown to me is like the masculine part of creation holds all the thoughts, but the internal workings of the mothers know how to actually create the operating systems. So it's a different layer of creation, and they both work together in unison. It's complete unity, but they're completely different aspects of creation itself, but still in oneness. It's so hard to put into words what I see, but that divine feminine part, I can see why they need to suppress it, because it's going to be the most powerful potentials that you will hold in this realm, is working with those parts of you.
Yeah, it's complicated because it's like many people can't describe what, and the thing about thought forms is that we don't realize it, but we interweave in and out of different planes of reality. And much like the triple helix, of which we only have two, it's much how reality goes. And we actually swing in and out of different planes of reality, because reality is merely predicated on the 3-2 principle. There are 3 chemical, 2 electrical, but now we're understanding, all right, so is thought limited to merely the interpretation of the brain of processing 3 chemical platforms to 2 electrical stimuli that creates, again, we all perceive reality as though we're looking out. This is where we think consciousness is, because we can only perceive out of these eyes. And it's really odd. You take sight away, what happens? You deprive a human of sight, their other 4 abilities become sight.
Yes.
But you're right. It's very difficult for me to describe this realm. And it's interesting because your perception of what the feminine is again, mine. I struggle with this because it's in constant formation. Yeah, it's always changing. It's
evolving. Yes. I get that.
I guess I've become so sensitive that it's interesting when you said about the worship of self. And it was the discussion that we were having last week in the chat room. Hey, David Barry, much love to you, brother. Good to see you, Scotty boy. About ego.
Yeah.
In the book I'm reading here, and it really struck me when it really sank in. I wanted to wake Lynn up, but I learned not to do that. that, all right, this is going to sound completely bizarre, but we all worship ourselves.
Yeah.
Above all other things,
Yeah.
I worship me. In
Yep.
fact, it comes right down to it. In reality, the only God that exists is me.
Yeah.
And if I don't worship me, if I don't love me, then I can never love anything external of me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And that's
It totally
thought.
does. But see,
Yeah.
the thing is, though, Wayne, is that your love is coming from a spiritual place. It's not coming from a
Yeah.
physical place. It's coming from a spiritual place. Those are different. So, like I said, when when you don't understand that you're more than your body and you're just trapped in the reality, doing what most normal human beings do, that's when you're in the ego false idol worship. And that's what they showed me. The ego is the ergos, and the ergos becomes the egregore.
And isn't that what we are? Ego?
Well, yeah.
I mean, right? It's so it shakes your world up, baby. That's all I got to say, because you're going, and now,
Well, Wayne, that's what I had, that realization that I was in a thought form and that I was an egregore. And when I realized that this body was an egregore in a thought form, and it had me trapped in this mental construct, that's when I was like, oh, snap, I'll drop that doll like a hot cake, baby. Bam, this is what's keeping me bound. I will lose it. I will drop all of it. And I was so serious in my spirit, because I was just like, oh my gosh, that was hard to have that realization. But I was so serious. I was like, I will return to my source, and nothing will trap me, stop me, or block me. And if it is this thing that I'm inhabiting that's going to block me or drop me, I'll drop it right now. And they were like, no, 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 no. And I was like, why? Why are you so scared?
I love
Because
this.
they
I mean,
didn't want to lose me. So, that's what it was. It literally was. So, and then I had the dream of cutting myself out of the serpent. It was like, my child, you now have been set free from the watery grave of which you slept. My child, you have now been freed from the bondage of the serpent.
but is the serpent not a thought form?
It
I mean,
totally is. But think
yeah.
about it. You know how they symbolize our world as the Ouroboros, which is the serpent eating its own tail? And that makes sense in an entropy system. So this must be right now. This is obviously, we're in serpent land for sure.
I have the equipment that I'm acquiring that, and it's just for my own personal curiosity of the technology that they're actually now being able to track, record, and pierce the veil. The technology is getting really cool. These SLS systems are quite amazing. And what I'm finding out is that there are spirits dancing all around us. And I ask Lynn this all the time.
Oh my gosh, all the time.
And, we were talking, and I said, hon, do you think you're going to get trapped here? And she said, she says, I really haven't thought about that. She says, but there's a lot of things since I married you that I hadn't thought about at all. But, and she said, it's interesting because if ghosts exist, paranormal, if we can now track them, we can actually now see them. Our technology, we're realizing now that there's this whole race of being called shadow people. We're finding out now that there are other beings that I don't know if they're human, but they live in these interdimensional realms. And she said, well, if they exist, then she says it would appear they're trapped. And I said, or they found that this is their way that they can stay here as close to the material as possible.
Yes.
They don't want to leave.
Could be that too. Yep.
because I'm convinced. I've searched for my mom, out there. She's moved on.
Yeah.
She's not there anymore. She was there for a little while, as my dad was. They've moved on.
Yes.
So it tells me that they apparently made the transition.
Yes.
Does that make any sense at all?
It totally does. And I
Yeah.
think you're right, Wayne. I think when they actually get once they cross the threshold, there's a threshold you got to get through. And I keep seeing this. But once they get through that, they're gone. And there's really not a lot of they can still see you and they can perceive and connect to you through thought, but they're not here anymore. They're in a different place.
There,
And the
yeah.
one, yeah, then you've got the ones that are still in this place. And I do think that that has something to do with your consciousness and what you believe about reality and believe about yourself and believe about just everything you believe. It's all of that's going to be where your destination takes you. You're
Yeah,
going
I
to
mean,
go.
it's like learning, math,
Yeah.
geometry.
Mhm.
And now I'm finding out that love of math that I had fits perfectly in philosophy. Pythagoras.
Yeah.
Pythagoras was the first true mathematician. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting. We called them mathematicians. Why? Because they are true magicians.
Yes.
But that now you know why it's important that you learn algebra, calculus, and etc. Because all of that I am learning now, and it's quite fascinating. Plays, it's sacred gematria.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Numbers.
Absolutely. It's all numbers. All
Yeah,
numbers. Everything is a binary code in this reality.
it
This is
is.
the material realm. In matter, matter needs templates. Those
Yes.
templates are made out of zeros and ones. It's all math, and all that math produces geometry. And geometry
So I'm
creates.
going to share something with the group here just to show you how much magic is in everything. So when you understand the sacredness of numbers, why certain numbers are sacred, for instance, why 3 is so sacred is that because it's in the direct possession of 1 plus 2, 3. That as far as the expansion from 1 to 9 went. When they brought in 0, there was a huge debate, and Pythagoras was part of this debate.
Mhm.
Because here's the simple thing about a spell, a magic. You see, 0 is recognition of nothing.
Yes.
But we could put 0 in front of something, and now that something becomes greater than it was without nothing.
Yes.
Do you see what I mean? I can
Yeah.
have 1.
And then what's interesting too is when you add 0 to anything, it's still the same number. And when you multiply 0 against anything, it becomes 0. It cancels it out.
And if you look at it, for instance, I say 5. If I add a 0, I've now increased from nothing. I have now 50. If I add another 0, I've done the same thing again. And it's really interesting how that all works back into philosophy, into the idea is when we talk about these thought forms.
I just saw something about the Trinity has to do with hitting the exponential factors. When you hit the Trinity, you hit the exponential parts of the math. So the 1 plus the 2, but then the 1 and the 2 produces the 3, but they're showing me the 3 is the fullness of the 1 and the 2 combined as its image of thought, vibration, form. And that's where you're getting into the exponential power. So then that Trinity can go to the 7th power or whatever that
Wherever
is.
it's going.
Yeah, I don't know
Someone
what that
wrote
means.
0 is neutral, the strongest digit. That's true.
It is.
And you get into the philosophy of 0, in which this book does, where it comes into thought forms. I had no idea. I went, oh, okay. Isn't
I
that
read
interesting?
an amazing book a while ago, and it was called The Law of Nine. And it was
Mm.
about math and numbers, and it was 1 through 9, but 0 through 9 is the true creative scale for this entire universe. It is basically 0 through 9 is how everything exists in this reality.
And it's so interesting in meditation. I often sometimes find myself trying to calculate my environment.
Right.
It's uncalculable.
Yeah.
But
As we say, it's hard, huh?
it is. I mean, I still ask the question, how does a ghost know where the floor is at?
It's, I see you're
It's just,
creating as you're thinking, because it happens so fast in the spiritual realm. As soon as you think it, it becomes it. So you think you're walking on a floor, the floor appears.
that's, and Gates wrote a book back in 97 or 8. He said, business at the speed of thought.
Yes.
And it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the calculation is light faster than thought.
No, thought's faster than
I
light.
think it is. I think
I
thought
know
can
it is. I
perceive.
don't know how I know it is, but I guarantee this will be proven. I don't know why, but I absolutely know it is faster than light. Why, Wayne? That's why the spaceships can travel with portals. They're using mirrors and they're using thought.
They actually say they actually do that. That thought is space, and that space. Isby says, I still ask, why did a ghost wear clothes? I still ask that question. Is nudity not allowed in the other realm? I mean, I don't know. I mean, are ghosts modest?
Well, think about it, Wayne.
I
If
mean,
everything in creation is about the act of sex, if everybody was walking around naked, how much sex you think might be happening up there? Maybe it's about here. It's learning, trying to create.
no, I had never known. Is there a heavenly orgy taking place that I'm
I
not
would
aware
bet
of?
you.
I mean,
I bet you. I bet
hey,
you.
listen, if you read mythology and you read all the gods, the whole thing of Mount Olympus was
sex.
they were all screwing the whole time. Yeah. And when they got finished screwing each other, they came down and screwed us.
And right. And a lot of our Bible is genealogy.
And it's all about sex in there.
Screwing. I mean, it's all about who made what with what, who made what.
I could never figure out how Isaac, as he was going to the temple, slept with the temple prostitute. It may have been Jacob, and left his staff. And then she came back and said, hey, but I never, that's one of those questions. Why did all the temples have temple prostitutes?
Because
on site.
They're using
that sexual energy. You bet your ass they are.
And I want to know, where do they have the sucks energy sucking box that sucks all that energy in so they can use it? They got one. I'm telling you, there's something to this.
If we could see it, it's there. I believe it's actually there. I mean, I have seen this, and Gene Roddenberry did the best job of it. And when they had Yesterday's Tomorrow was about data and data going back. But anyway, it was this race of species that they would get over a person, particularly in a hospital, that were weak. They would suck out the life force energy. They would then take that essence, go to the collective, and then let the collective feed off of it.
See, I saw that. That's what I see. I do see that. I saw that happen to somebody that I cared about. I walked into their room after they had had a surgery, and I saw a being over their bed, and I saw it.
That's what it is. And boy, you just hit it. It is a sucking sound.
Well, I was like, hey, and it saw me, and it was like, and it was a gorgeous looking man. I'm talking, wow. And then my stomach went off, and I was like, that's not what this thing really is. Make it show its true form. I said, whoa. Show me your true form now. What are you? And that thing transferred. Its eyes turned yellow, and it had fangs, and it started laughing. I said, you better run. I'm gonna get rid of you. You better go now. And it looked at me and it laughed, and then it exploded a candle in the kitchen, and it blew up all over the whole entire kitchen. It was nuts.
Whoa.
I've seen that. I have seen that.
Whoa.
It was scary.
I love this.
I saw
Well,
it.
Trina, hold that thought till next week.
Yeah. it
Wow.
was cool.
And AK Morningstar, it's true. We truly are energy. There is absolutely.
You are.
Yeah.
First, your energy, flesh is second.
What a fantastic group. Y'all are just, Melinda Crocker says, I had surgery and haven't been the same since. Whoa.
You know what? Clear your field and have your angels remove any implants or anything that's gotten close to you, because you probably picked something up through the frequency shift that was put into your body due to the drugs. Those drugs take your frequency down, and we need them when we have surgeries, but nonetheless, it does make you very vulnerable. So you might have got a hook, a parasite, a thought form, whatever. Just go in and tell your body to go through every cell, every membrane, every fluid, every ounce of water, and remove that which does not belong to you and cast it away. Because you can, but the hardest part is identifying it. It seems now you've identified it. So go after it. You will find it.
It's true. I mean, when I went in been years ago, but they put me under, tried to put the scope down my throat and almost broke the doctor's hand.
I was gonna say, you kicked their butt, Wayne.
That's when he came out and he told Lynn, he says, never had a guy like this. He said, your husband's very strong.
Almost broke my hand.
So they had to give me fentanyl on the next time.
Yeah.
I mean, Chase, it was like, all right. Well, we love all of y'all. Y'all are just great. And folks, we just love one another, and we just learn to walk and accept one another. And I got to say this, Soul Tribe, I'm excited about what we are on doing here. It's going to lead to some powerful things. It really is. Know that to be true. Trina, always an absolute thrill to have you on. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Wayne, you're, like I said, I'm so grateful you're in my life. Every day I count my blessings. And when you weren't on yesterday, I was like, I miss you. Where's Wayne?
Y'all gonna make me cry, man.
It's true.
I'm
like, what would I do without Wayne?
Isn't now Shannon just said, according to Google, today is Fentanyl Addiction Awareness Day. Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Hold on down.
Absolutely. And like Wayne we were talking this morning, be really careful for you guys' emotions. This solar eruption stuff really does affect us. So make sure and keep your emotions in check, because you might be getting triggered, because this is what this will do. So just,
if you have one of the Rex Bear gold tinfoil hats, that would probably be a good time to be wearing one.
Right. Right.
Just saying it,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. We love all of you. Thank you so much. You are, I tell you, you folks, and regardless of how this family, we are growing, and it's most appreciative. I have gratitude for each and every one of you, and I just want to say thank you.
Me too.
Thank you, Trina. I give gratitude for you all the time. I mean,
do too for you.
Yeah.
And Brian.
Oh,
and
Brian.
Mom,
Brenda, we love you.
You know what? Brenda got to see Brian on Mother's Day.
Did she?
First time.
He's growing. He is so far, ahead of
Mother's Day gift.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I was thinking of our friend the other day. I miss him.
All the time.
All the time. Yeah. All right, everyone. We love y'all. Tomorrow I have Chris Matthew in. It's going to be fun. Trina, stay with me. See you next week, dear.
Yes.
All right.
Much love, you guys.
Much love, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.